Hello, beloved people. How are we doing? England versus Serbia. We won the game. We're going to break down the game. We're going to talk about Foden. We're going to talk about Trent. We're going to talk about Harry Kane. We need to talk about him. And so much more. We've got so much to get through. And why this moment in the game, for me, I thought was incredibly revealing in terms of the setup and possibly the impact of Phil Foden and the positioning of him, and if that needs to continue or if we need to go elsewhere. We are sponsored by the beloved people at StatHead, who have put together some amazing stats that we're going to use in this video. So make sure you listen up for that one and get yourself involved. Links in the description. You can get yourself a free month, and then you can get yourself 20% off an annual subscription. We'll get into that in a second. But I want to get straight into the game, because I think the tactics of it were really, really interesting. Get involved if you're in the live chat. What we're going to do for most of these England games is try and do a live stream the day after, so we can really get into it. I've looked at so many clips today because I'm hungover, and I've gone through a lot of stuff. And I think there's some really interesting things here that I think people are kind of being a bit top line about. And the top line for me, I think, is that we've won that first game. Can we be better? Yes. How can we be better? That's what we're going to get into in just a second. So in terms of the setup of the game, it was a little something like this. This was the team that we had out on paper, but what did it look like? Well, first of all, let me put forward the opposition. That needs to go away. Please 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 go away. It's not going away. Okay. It will go away in time. It's not going away. It's because I'm panicking. That's why, because I panicked. It's gone away. There they are. Here we go. Let's come back now again. Let's do it again now. Again. Okay, forget it. Right. What I wanted to talk to you about was these half spaces. These half spaces are really, really important, because against Serbia, they played with the back three. But what was really interesting is it turned into a back five. And what we thought would be this actually turned into this. Foden was playing in this half space consistently, although we'll get into that actually, but because it was a lot more fluid than that. Trent was stepping into these spaces here or coming out wide at times. Saka was pushing on into this area of the pitch. Kane, of course, was the centre forward. And Bellingham had an incredibly free role. Actually, I'll get to that right now, actually, because his average positions, I thought, and the heat map that he has was absolutely amazing. Because in terms of that freedom that he had in this game, he was absolutely everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So good. We'll come back to that. But what was really interesting, I thought, was just the fluidity in that first 20, 30 minutes. And I thought it was really, really impressive. And you had, of course, because they didn't have much pace in behind, we actually had Trippier all the way up here. We'll get into a lot of screenshots today, guys. So get yourself comfy. It's going to be very, very enjoyable. And Walker and Trippier had very different games, in my opinion. There's a very specific reason, which I'll showcase to you as well. But this is the way that it looked. And you had Declan Rice here. And it was kind of a bit of a box. And different players could go into different positions. Which leads me on to Phil Foden. Because, as I've said to you, this video is sponsored by the guys at StatHead. StatHead FB Ref is powered by FB Ref. And it is the most comprehensive database out there right now. And here it is right now. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at what Phil Foden and what he's been doing for Man City when it comes to progressive passes. Because a big thing that came out from analysing the game and looking at clips of Phil Foden was the progressive passes and him being unable to get those progressive passes. And there were a couple of reasons for it. So what we did, we went on to StatHead. As you can see here, this is StatHead. And as I said before, you can get yourself a free month. So you can just try it out for a month. And if you enjoy it, then you can get yourself 20% off using my code, also in the description, for an annual subscription. So we used the search criteria here, and we wanted to get some stats on him specifically. And when I say him specifically, I mean Phil Foden, of course, and I mean progressive passes received. So this means completed passes that move the ball towards the opponent's goal line at least 10 yards from its furthest point in the last 6 passes, or any completed pass into the penalty area. It excludes passes from the defending 40% of the pitch, which I think is really, really interesting. So the first thing we did, we went through it and we got, there's an absolute million different things that you can find here. Honestly, it is just outrageously comprehensive, and it's taking our content to the next level. We're able to go through a whole host of different years as we work our way through. You can go back to 87, 89, 88, sorry. But of course, we wanted Man City and we wanted his stats. And we focused on progressive passes received. And so for Man City, First of all, if you move it along as well, this is crazy, right? You can see here where my mouse is. He received the ball nearly getting close to 2,000 times last season. So, and this is the player of the season. So I think there's so much talk about, oh, get him out, doesn't work. I get it, and we'll get to that in terms of the balance of the team. But I think one thing we do know is Phil Foden is a really good player and had the second most progressive passes received. I then wanted to make it a bit more comprehensive, and I wanted to find out what it was when it came to English players. And when it came to English players, we moved it along. We changed the criteria to English players. You can change it to the top 5 leagues. You can change it to a million different leagues. They've got so many leagues covered as well. And he's second for that one as well. And I thought that was what was really interesting as well, was that Bukayo Saka is obviously so crucial, but Phil Foden being second within this, I think what's really, really important is the fact that when he's getting the ball, he's actually progressing the ball with distance as well, as you can see here, because 3,434 yards he progressed when he had the ball, Phil Foden. Let me click on him. And someone who had a similar amount of passes received, because Bukayo Saka's on a different stratosphere when it comes to progressive passes received, was Raheem Sterling. Now, Raheem Sterling was a long way off when it came to the amount of yards that they were able to go forward. So the point is, Phil Foden's a great player. He's a player who can get on the ball. He's a player that can affect the game. And I'm going to show you some screenshots now. And honestly, I think people are missing a trick in terms of just quickly going, Phil Foden needs to go. First thing I want to show you is this. And we're going to obviously get into Trent. And I've got a problem with Harry Kane that we need to talk about. So, these are the first few touches that Phil Foden had in the game. The first one is here. Let's move it on. As I say, get yourself comfy. We've got lots to talk about today. Phil Foden, this is in the first few minutes of the game. He's now popped over to this other side of the pitch, and that's what England did. I thought they did really, really well in terms of just having that freedom and allowing different players to get into different places. And in particular, actually, often it was trying to get into those half spaces, which, if I just circle it, or actually maybe make it a sort of area, is trying to get into these areas here. Or, if we come back to the tactics board for a sec, these half spaces that you can see Trent and Foden in. And so Bellingham had that freedom to kind of go where he wanted, and he did exactly that. And it shows in terms of the clips that we've got here, because Phil Foden, in those first few touches, he is all over the place, like in a good way. He is picking up the ball here. That's his second touch. We can move it along. The next touch is a little bit deeper, and it's in this area here that he actually had the ball a lot more. And the big thing that I noticed from all of this was, of course, Jude Bellingham is the main man. He's him. He's got that attitude. He's absolutely fantastic. But what I want to see, and what I would like to see in the discourse of people talking about it as well, is you could see wholeheartedly that what it was about is it was about positionalism with this team. And it was about interpreting the space and getting into the right areas, in particular when we had the ball. And I thought the chemistry was just a little bit off, because people are kind of having a go at Foden for being in the area that he was in. But often, he wasn't getting the pass back that he wanted to get. Let me explain exactly what I mean, because this is a great example. And I think one thing that I would change, and I'd love to know if you guys agree with me, because look, people were saying in the chat, he needs to be dropped for Eze. I think what we need to really understand is that the chemistry is low with this group. And we're trying to get to that level, and they are elite footballers, especially in those attacking areas. But we also have to have those players that are going to run past the ball. And that's why I think Phil Foden, when he was getting into these areas, which he got into these areas a lot, this wasn't ideal for us. But there was a reason for it as well, in my opinion. So here we go. So this is one where I think, look, you can see he actually passes the ball to Bellingham, but what does Bellingham do when he gets the ball? That's really important with this, and I think a lot of people have missed this, is Foden actually being helped by his teammates. So, as I say, he passes the ball to Bellingham, and you can see from his body language here, he's moving. He's passing and he's moving. And it could be just a little pass back to him, and you've taken a player out of the game, and all of a sudden you've got an overload with Phil Foden here. Move it on. He doesn't do that. Bellingham goes back, and Phil Foden is now out of the game. That's fine. You want to recycle the ball? Absolutely fine. That's cool. But no one now is in that zone 14 that we often talk about, and in those half spaces that we want them to be in. Because that's where you're going to be really dangerous, and that's where we want Bellingham or Foden. But in particular, for me, I think you want Foden in those areas. Let's keep moving it. This is a few seconds later, and this is the other side of it. So it's the other way around, and it's Bellingham in this position on this occasion. Bellingham playing the ball to Foden. And so we've just seen Bellingham get the ball, and then he's him, isn't he? So he concentrates on having the ball and looking to go somewhere else. Phil Foden is very smart, very, very smart footballer. And so when he gets the ball, he's already had a little scan. He's had a little look, and actually he just pops it off, and we'll move it on one more, and he's gone. He's gone. And what he's done there, he's then created a bit of space for Bellingham. Bellingham carries on with his movement here. And again, he could have played it back to him, or he could have played it in behind, or if we go back to, he could have played the ball to Kieran Trippier. And once he's made that spin, Kieran Trippier could have played that pass to him or seen that pass. But he didn't. So I'm not having a go at anyone here. The point is, Phil Foden is making the right movements. Bellingham decides to go elsewhere. Another example, and I think a great example of, again, Bellingham in this position, which I really like him in. But again, you've got to make a decision. Are we trying to get both of these guys in the team? And if we are, how do we want to do it? And I don't think it has to be always Foden here and always Bellingham here. But I think more so in the next game and more so in the games coming up, that interchange between these two players needs to be one where Bellingham drops in a little bit. Because here's another example. This is one where Stones actually is driven with the ball on this occasion. He's been positive in his play. He's then been able to play to Foden because he trusts him. And that's the one thing I would say. We've seen those progressive passes. Man City, they trust him. England need to trust him, and they need to see him as well. Too often, they weren't seeing him. He then plays a pass here, and when he does that, he doesn't just stand, he goes. And that's why he's so exciting. Again, you can see here, the movement is there. He plays it, and he goes. As soon as he goes, if we move it on a little bit further, what Bellingham actually does, I'll go back. Bellingham then has the ball, but also because Phil Foden has taken this player away with him, he's created this space, and we've been able to get the ball into the box. And if you remember this chance, it's a terrible touch from Foden, and obviously that's not great. But are we going to just throw Phil Foden away because he's had one bad touch here? He's getting in the right places. His off-the-ball movement is absolutely fantastic. And I think with Bellingham, you've got a player who can go and find him, but also can drive past players as well. This is another one where Phil Foden, you can see from his body language, he's here in that left half space as he was throughout. Both in really good positions, as we were talking about, in those half spaces, him and Bellingham. It's a great place for us to be. We're going to talk about Trent and him in this zone here. He is looking all the time for that perfect pass. But what will be difficult for Trent, and something that he needs to maybe refine a little bit, are those sort of mid-range passes, because a few of those went a little bit awry. And Phil Foden in this moment, he could see actually that one, Declan Rice has had a look, so there's a pass here and through, but also, Trent's Trent, can he play that pass? Can he play that pass? He didn't. We move it along. And he's kind of put his arms up because Phil Foden's he can see it. He can see it almost that little bit quicker. And that comes back to chemistry. And again, we've won the first game. Let's all take a breath. We're in a good place now. And what this allows for the next set of games is Gareth Southgate to it gives him time. It gives him time. But Phil Foden, people out there are going to be hammering him. Not having it. He's getting in nice positions here. Another example, Phil Foden plays it. And when Phil Foden plays it, he doesn't just play it, he plays it and he moves. Does he get it back? He could have, but Declan Rice has already made his decision and he's going to go this way when there is a little pass there for him. And Phil Foden's made that run. The movement was really good, time and again. And Declan Rice, I think in particular, was kind of letting him down a little bit. And as I say, in terms of that overall system change, it doesn't have to be overall because, look, Trent's up here at this point. You could, if you don't know the players, you're thinking he's maybe a number 10. So that box of these four, we know Declan Rice is going to sit, but those other three can have that movement. I think there's an overall understanding that Trent has sort of this area here, and then it's down to Bellingham or Foden to be in those two positions there. But again, this is the goal. And this is why I think there needs to be, if it's been, let's say, 80%, 20%, Phil Foden in this area of the pitch, which is not really where we want him. We want him here because he can get it, he can turn, he can drive, and he's got that quick sharpness, and you want him in and around those areas, in and around zone 14. I think the same goes for Bellingham. With this goal, what I want to break down, and the person I want you to keep an eye out on for this one, is this player here, Godelj. Godelj is with Bellingham. He's probably his marker, I would guess. So, and what I love here is that Bellingham is different to Foden in the sense that Bellingham's just got this. He eats the ground. He absolutely eats the ground. And so if we move it along, he plays that pass out wide, and then off he goes. There's 6. There's Bellingham, of course, making his way through. Foden is in that central area once again. We've started to flood the box. We move on one more, and he munches that header. Absolute fantastic stuff. Great goal. Great stuff from Saka, and great stuff in terms of getting in behind. And we need to be able to get in behind. We need to be able to control the ball, but we also need those runners here and there. And that number 6 is here, by the way. So that's what Bellingham can do. Bellingham can, as much as he isn't great, and he was phenomenal in this game. And actually, his defensive work was so good, kind of on the blind side a lot of the time in terms of his defensive work. But his ability, once we've got the ball and people are allowed to move about, I'd really love to see him drop a little bit deeper at times when it comes to that left-hand side, just to allow Phil Foden to stay in that area of the pitch. And also, in terms of staying in that central area, there were moments when he was there. And if we had him out wide like Anthony Gordon, and Anthony Gordon, if you look at clips from him, he is out wide all the time. But what that means is that you need to do something with Trippier then. Is Trippier going to step into this area here? We'll come back to that. Again, there was a few moments of bad luck for Phil Foden as well, because we are talking about this game in a very different way if a few passes are different. You know, because he starts in this position overall, and therefore he's that little bit more central, when we win the ball here, he can break, and he does break. Oh, when he breaks, Trent wins the ball. We go. We're off. And if Kyle Walker cuts that back correctly, he scored a goal. No one's saying a thing. This is one where, again, I think everyone's going to go thinking that, you know, we're playing, it's like a fussball where, you know, you're a football table where you're kind of like, everyone's just stuck in their positions. This is Phil Foden out wide left. I know he was more central, and I'll explain exactly why in a second. But this is him in a moment where we could be that little bit further. He could be that bit further. And again, his movement is great. Like, his movement is really good. He drives across. The cross does come in, but it's a bad cross. Again, he was there. He was in the right place. This is a different talking point that I'm a little bit annoyed about, and it's Jordan Pickford. Jordan Pickford playing short. Not enough, basically. Playing too many long balls. Way too many long balls. Bellingham here, in build-up. Happy to get on the ball. Give it to him. You have to trust these players when they want it. Because what happened in the second half is we couldn't keep a hold of it. Because he kept playing it long. This one, he actually played over Kane's head. But again, in terms of the bashing of Foden, if Foden is wide right, and I think at times when he can get out there, then great. But this, Pickford just plays a long pass instead of playing it short, which you think he should have. Saka wins the header. Foden actually, coming from essentially here, drives across. Shows great athleticism and pace. Gets to the ball before this play. You'll all remember it. And again, gets munched. So he could have been through. So it all could have been very, very different. Now, this is the reason why he's not picking up that really wide position. And we'll talk about there's a pass that Trent is desperate to play, by the way. When I was sort of looking at different clips, I was thinking, well, Trent said that this is a year in the making. A year in the making, this midfield role. So then when I watch some of these clips and you look at the long passes, his long passes in this game were actually really, really good, apart from one or two. But he is looking for a certain pass, which I'll show you in just a second. But first, this, again, is another example where you're thinking, if we're playing Anthony Gordon, he would be there, wouldn't he? Right? But if we're not, if that's going to happen, then Phil Foden's not going to be a part of it. And him in this position, it honestly isn't the end of the world. And whilst we've not got Luke Shaw, I think Phil Foden has to play in that position because we have to play a right-footed left back. And although this great, beautiful pass from Trent stretches the play, because we've got a right-footed player playing left back right now, and if it's Joe Gomez, it'd be the exact same problem. So until Luke Shaw comes back, we're going to continue to have this problem. This pass gets made, and it's not one where you've got a player who can go for it, or even go here and then get a cross in. You've got Trippier or Gomez who are just going to have a chest and going to come back. And if they are going to come back, they then need someone to help them out. I mean, there's a whole host of things wrong with this in terms of the whole pitch. We need to get players up the pitch. But I thought this was also super, super interesting. So this is on the Analyst website. This is the passing network. And actually, what I want to go to, I want to go something a little bit different. Let's go to this chalkboard. We pray it. There you go. So this was so interesting to me because in terms of passing, and I think it's just about accepting the situation, right? The situation is that we don't have a left-footed left back right now. So when we look at successful passes, hopefully this will come up. Oh, it doesn't want to come up. Please come up. Come on. Why is everyone being fun? Why are they all being funny? Basically, I can explain it if it doesn't work out. Basically, what happened was that Trippier in particular was just playing backwards passes throughout the game. Whereas someone like Kyle Walker was playing the ball forwards all the time. It doesn't want to come up. Oh, there we go. We're there. Right, sorry. So there you go. Kyle Walker. For some reason, you got to click on it. So this is the two of them. Let's start off with Kyle Walker. So Kyle Walker, getting the ball. Yes, he's got to play it sideways. He's a fullback. He's going to do that at different times. Sometimes he's going to play backwards. But you can see in this area here, playing the ball forwards often. And he was doing that because he was more comfortable, because he's right-sided, all of those reasons. And I think Kieran Trippier would do the exact same. If we compare that with Kieran Trippier, of course, we're kind of shooting right to left here. What you can see is essentially Kieran Trippier played this pass here forwards. But aside from that, played every other pass backwards. And that's partly down to him just not being comfortable taking it then onto his left foot and playing the ball forward. So, again, for that reason as well, Luke Shaw, we just need Luke Shaw back. And between now and then, I think we're just going to have to stomach it. That's how I feel about it. Let's talk about that pass that Trent is desperate to make. I think it's so interesting, this. So, as we've seen, this is a pass. And we know he loves that pass. And it is such a shame that that pass is going to Trippier. And in a perfect world, we would love that pass to be going to Anthony Gordon. What I would say, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is, substitutions. We need to use our substitutions. And I think Gareth Southgate made a couple to sort of insert that energy. But I thought there was one substitution that he really should have made, but that he didn't make. That I think really, really hurt us, which I'll explain. So this pass that Trent has been waiting to do, these are the 3 touches this is the game against Bosnia. And what we are now learning is that this area of the pitch in particular is going to be where Trent drops in, picks the ball, and then he can play those passes. But what he desperately, desperately needs are those runners. And that is one problem that you've kind of got with Phil Foden in terms of that cross-field pass is not going to be the one for him. But where Phil Foden can maybe have a different impact, and again, it's not an 11-man game anymore. Like, you've got to make all these changes. And maybe it's one where, okay, Foden's struggling here, get him off. Let's get Eze on. I thought in this game in particular, Eze had real telepathy with Trent. Because when Trent gets the ball, and this is literally within 3 touches. So the ball has come from Dunk here. And if you think about them, they've been working for a year. Literally, he's got the ball. He's got 1 touch out of his feet. And then he's straight away looking to play this pass in behind. Completely vertical. And the question I have is, he and Harry Kane need to get that understanding quickly. And I think there's a few moments where he's clearly looking for that pass. Ollie Watkins was willing to make that run into the channel. Harry Kane, I thought, looked knackered, especially in the second half. I thought it looked absolutely knackered. And so he wants to play that pass. He'd love to play that pass from out wide into those areas as well. And we saw he played a beautiful pass into this area here for Bukayo Saka at one point during the game. So if we're going to have Trent in the team, and again, this is one of those dilemmas, if you want Trent in the team and you want to build the team around Trent and Trent alone, fine. But that means then, okay, we're going to bring in Gordon. So we're just forgetting Phil Foden now, who literally every single person has been going on about how he has to play, and he has to play centrally. Or I think we're much closer from an attacking perspective, much closer to where we want to be than people think. I think it's a chemistry thing. That's how I feel about it. But Trent wants to play that pass, really wants to play that pass. And one problem that we do have, again, because Phil Foden is in this position, because we've got Luke Shaw, because if in a different world, and we go to the pass map, sorry. This is, I thought, was really revealing, right? So this is the pass network from the game, okay? What I think is really interesting here is that, it's the wrong team, I thought it was. with England, we're very flat, right? And question to you guys. We're not talking about who's better. We're talking about what's better for Trent and all these different sort of cogs that we're trying to get into this same machine. I think there is a world where if you picture now, instead of Phil Foden, Anthony Gordon, we're higher up. There's a lot more space out here. That could work for us. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but I want world-class Phil Foden in the team. But what I would also say, Harry Kane, if Ollie Watkins is playing in this game, or certainly if Ollie Watkins is playing the last 20 minutes of this game, can we work the channels a little bit more? Can we get up the pitch in a different way? As I say, Jordan Pickford was playing the ball far too long against a team of absolute giants, and Harry Kane wasn't getting anything out of that. But Harry Kane, as I say, dead on his feet in this game. And what we need to do is to really, really work on these relationships. I thought that we were sort of like faking it till we make it as the game went on, because once they figured us out a little bit and realised that Phil Foden was picking up the ball in quite a safe space a lot of the time, that's when it seemed to sort of, we seem to not have those answers. But as I've shown you with numerous clips, there were moments where I don't think it's worth hammering Phil Foden. I thought there was moments where he's unfortunate. But what I would like to see in the second half is, do we need that player who's going to stretch it for us? That's going to give that bit more space to that midfield. That's going to allow us to play through the lines a little bit easier, because it's going to push back their defence. And let's not be afraid of Harry Kane being dropped. Not dropped, sorry. Whoa, calm down, everyone. Of Harry Kane being taken off. Because this is late in the game. And the overall setup here, you think, is pretty strong, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks good to me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Both in line. Nice and compact. Happy days. 1, 2. We've seen this a million times. That's fine. But what you're about to see is Jude Bellingham getting a little bit peed off. And rightly so. Because Harry Kane could barely run by this point. And what Jude Bellingham's doing here, and he is phenomenal at this, by the way. Phenomenal. Is kind of like sneaking up on players. And that's one thing you would lose. And this is the thing, guys, the dilemma. Like, you're going to have to lose a little section of one player to allow for another section of another player. And one thing about having Bellingham that little bit higher up is that in terms of sort of getting back once a player thinks they've got past him, he's so great at getting back and winning the ball. But we need to be fit to the 90th minute. And I think there's a few players here that probably were a bit leggy as the game went on. And Bellingham, as you can see from his body language, he's ready to jump, essentially. Once that ball goes backwards, that's kind of a bit of a symptom of negative play, and you can get at them and defend well. But if one goes, you've all got to go, or at least this front line have got to go together to stop those passes. And what comes from it, you can see Jude Bellingham, going at him. But Harry Kane doesn't see it, isn't engaged. I mean, to be fair, Saka's not really either. Once that player has jumped, you've all got to kind of look to push up a little bit. We've got that double pivot of Trent and Rice there. That's fine. And I think Foden's ready to go if he does go that way. But Saka could have been up there. But also, Kane needs to stop these passes as well. And as we move it along, it's just a little bit too easy. And you can see, let me zoom in on him. He ain't happy, lads and ladies. He is not happy. Because you've got to all go together. And what that leads to is, first of all, and again, if we actually go back, Harry Kane, he's now on the blind side of him, the midfielder, and he makes a fantastic run, to be fair to him. Let's get out of here. He makes a great run. And look, they're 1-0 down. He's got to go for it a little bit. But Harry Kane was a passenger by this point. You can see the run from the player here. Makes that run. Declan Rice is saying, make sure you follow him. But now you've got a bit of an overload. And Harry Kane kind of allowed that to happen. I will say Serbia made some really good substitutions. Took the game to England. Ilic came on, and that made a massive difference as well. And so even in this passage of play, they get a cross in. I think, look, Declan Rice is really diligent in his work here. And overall, defensively, I thought we were solid enough. And so we kind of got away with it. But you cannot have any weak links. And again, this is the ball gets crossed in. It goes to the other side. And then all of a sudden, Harry Kane decides to kind of try and stop it. We've got to defend as a team. And in the second half, I don't think we really, really did that. And his legs were gone. And now you've just taken him out of the game again. Easy throw, easy pass, and they're over to that other side again. That structure that was there in that first shot that I showed you, in terms of Harry Kane being here, allowing Bellingham to step up and be here, and allowing that structure to be there and in place, it's not there now. And so now they don't really know what to do. Saka actually steps forward a few yards because he kind of wants to fill this space that Harry Kane is now not able to do. And, yeah, you guessed it. They were able to get through us really, really easy and get a cross in. And we got away with it, and it was fine. And I think there were some really, really positive performances. And I want to answer a couple of questions if you've got any, guys. But for me, I just think overall it's one where we're not there yet, are we? We're not there yet. I think I think there's very easy, simple changes that can be made. And my gut call, having watched a lot of clips today of Phil Foden, is off the ball movement, Declan Rice, and when he gets the ball and what he does. Declan Rice doesn't really look left. He doesn't really look left. I'm going to go to the tactics board now because I want to know what you've got to say about it. I appreciate and understand the overall balance of this team. We would like it to have more balance. And you would like those players, like, more sort of players that just want to run in behind. But I think that is where we need to be clever with our substitutions and the first half and the second half of the game. Because if we look at the heat maps here, what we can see, Trippier is up high, but as we've shown, he only plays the ball backwards because he's right-footed, which I'm not having a go at him for. It's just the facts. Foden looking to get in those different half spaces, but would we like him higher up the pitch? Would we like him on the the edge of the area? Of course we would. Bellingham, absolutely everywhere. Utter monster. Oh God, I can't speak highly enough of him. But it's just about it's about fitting in all the profiles of everyone. Trent, we knew what his spaces were. I thought him and Kyle Walker worked really well together. Saka as well, and he was that only player that kind of got into that final sort of fifth of the pitch, let's say, that penalty 18-yard line. And on the left-hand side, we just didn't have that. Harry Kane, a lot of talk about him and not getting on the ball. I was okay with that with about the first half. It was the second half that I was annoyed because I think he kind of needs to stay out of the way to help the team. He needs to stay out of the way because by doing that, he hopefully pins them back a little bit. And again, great cross from Bowen, he's able to get down the line. And I think in the second half of a game, it could be one where you make those changes and you have someone like Bowen who's going to bomb on and do that. Eze, it's not working for Foden. Don't worry. Pop him out. And you've got a different player who feels comfortable in that channel. But again, can Bellingham come in here? Has he got that energy to do it? I think he has. I think it's a simple conversation because he's got that ability to drive because he just eats it. But Kane, I think profile-wise, Watkins in certain games is going to be really, really useful. And again, I would also say, even against Serbia, someone like Ivan Toney would have been of use in a game like this as well. And of course, we've got Gordon as well. But that's if we're obviously going to a back three. But we've got to play someone left back. And I think Luke Shaw, when he comes in, is going to make a massive, massive difference. Massive, massive difference. I'm going to do that thing now, aren't I, where I've not got the right amount of players. Right, questions. Anyone got any thoughts, feelings, emotions? I've really done something stupid here, haven't I? What have I done? Trippier, Bellingham. Where are you? Foden. Good lad. Good lad. In your pop. Good lad. But I think there's a lot of positives there, man. I really do. I don't think it's that big a deal. I thought Saka was fantastic, by the way. I thought he was so good. So good. Right, let's read some questions. Okay. And I'm only going to read ones that aren't like Cole Palmer. I think Cole Palmer, the problem I would say about Cole Palmer is that, is it Cole Palmer for Foden? Yeah, maybe. I think it's okay to take him off. I think it's odd to not start him because I do think there's moments where he needs. I would have loved to see if you get Luke Shaw in this team. I can't find Shaw now. You get Luke Shaw in this team. Take Trippier out. What that means for me is two things. One, this just looks much better. But also, this looks much better. And then when you're doing that, and Foden knows I need to start that a little bit wider, that's one thing. And he has that opportunity to then see the whole pitch, which for someone of his intelligence, I think is exciting, and curve those runs, which he did and he nearly scored with. But again, if it's not really working, that's when Gordon you want someone like that. Because I think just having both of them out there, you then leave this big space here when Trent is dealing with this half space. And if Bellingham then has to step back here, you've got a player that might be out of the game. I think it's just something to keep in mind. But get Shaw back in and we'll be all right. I thought Gay did brilliantly as well. Right. Questions. What we got? Talk to me, people. Luke Shaw is the key. Says, let's talk FPL. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. I agree, man. Honestly, it's going to make such a difference, guys. It's going to make such a difference to get that natural left-footed player. James, why do people hate Trent? Are people hating Trent? honestly, go back and look. The one concern with him, which I said after the Man City game a long time ago, was picking up the ball in build-up. That is a slight concern. But honestly, I can see exactly what they're doing. I said it in my preview before the Serbia game. This is Trent space. We're going to call this Trent space. And if he wants to come out here as well, he is outstanding. And if it gets to the point, and I think that's where Foden needs, you need to have a little chat with Foden as well, because I think he needs to be brave enough to not wait for it to come back round, for him to just commit to those runs. Because if he does commit to those runs, I'm telling you now, he'll find him. He'll bloody find him. I need question marks. Line up for the next game. So that's a great question. The lineup for the next game, I think, because the thing is, you don't learn anything by not seeing it, by not going down roads. I think you've set up the initial, muscle memory of this team currently. And with Luke Shaw, we don't know if he can play 45 minutes, 90 minutes. Is he going to break down? Obviously, we don't have, we don't want it to happen. So we may live in a world where Trippier plays for the whole tournament. And if Trippier plays for the whole tournament, he will be in the positions where he's been told to be. And I thought defensively he did well as well for us. So that's great to have, right? It's crazy that his position is here. But his position is here because we know he's not really comfortable. So if he's going to play inside, he might as well hold the width for the team to then allow for this half space and essentially be a decoy for the rest of the team. Got too many players, haven't we? I think the team stays the same. I really do. I think we need to be more proactive with the substitutions. I thought Kane should have absolutely come off. I thought Eze should have come on for Foden. I thought Bowen was the right one for Saka. I thought Trent looked a little bit leggy, so you wanted to add some energy. So Conor Gallagher came in, and I was absolutely fine with that. So because I think you're gonna slowly get better. You're gonna understand where people are, and also you go Foden come off that pitch and go, Declan, you've got to. If I stick my arms out, give me the ball. Let me show you this fantastic stat on StatHead, which is available now, and you get a free month. Yeah, I'll give you a free month, Declan. A free month? That sounds amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. It's an incredible database. The most comprehensive out there when it comes to football. If you want to take your football content to the next level, then that is something that you need. You need StatHead. FBref link is in the description, 20% off an annual subscription. But if I stick my arms out, pass me the ball. Terrible lineup, says D. Harris. Foden should absolutely never play left wing again. But it's not left wing, is it? He didn't play left wing. This is the point. He's not a left winger. Well, look, first of all, he's played left wing loads for Man City. Secondly, he wasn't playing left wing. We were essentially playing 2-10s. We were essentially playing it was a diamond, wasn't it? It was a bit of a diamond. He wasn't playing left wing. No one was playing left wing. If anyone was playing left wing, positionally, Trippier was playing left wing. So I have to disagree with you on that one, I'm afraid. So I think I would stick with it. Because the time for wholeheartedly experimenting has gone. And I think Southgate made a decision. And I thought Gay looked brilliant. I thought he looked really comfortable there. I thought Stones, as that starting point, almost a bit of a libero at times, wanted to step forward. He can marshal the defence. I thought he was great. Walker really steady there. Obviously, pooped the bed when he got put through on goal. I think he's got it right. I do. I think the chemistry needs to go up a notch. Defensively, I fear for us a little bit. And I think there's a lot of work for Declan Rice to do at times. So, and I think in terms of that pressure on Trent from a defensive point of view, I think he's obviously got more players around him and there's more layers, because Trent we're nervous about here, not here. But against a better team, do we need to be a bit better out of possession? That would be a concern as well when it comes to Harry Kane, because I think he is drifting towards that sort of Ronaldo I don't press era, and I don't really like what I see when it comes down to that. Jeff Beasley says Trent out for Wharton or Gallagher and Gordon for Foden. Otherwise, Denmark will beat us. I think the thing is right, and I said this yesterday, is that Serbia, we should be able to beat Serbia 6 different ways. We should. But I am excited by a team. What I want to make sure that we see is those runs. Because when Trent gets the ball, he wants those runners. Trippier, you're never going to get that. So that's off the table. But you're not going to get that with Gomez either. Shaw, can he get up and down and do that as well? That's a slight concern. There's a lot of talk about Saka over there, which I'm not going to kind of entertain because I think he's best over here and showed output again. The right-hand side looked good. But that diagonal run here is on. Maybe we need to live in a world where, as you say, there will be a huge decision that he might need to make. If he's like, look, this ain't working, I guess it then becomes this. And I guess if we're going to do that, that's where you might think about taking Walker out and putting Trent here and bringing in a different midfielder. If you talk about Wharton there, you can maybe go and do that. I think you have to have Trent on the pitch. You just have to. I thought he was fine there. Honestly, go back if you can find it. Obviously, I was on a paid thing, but like if you can look at his long passing, it was really good. It was really, really good. Any other questions? What do I think about Rashford and Grealish? I thought Grealish was a little bit unlucky. I thought Rashford... I think the thing is he's obviously going down a different road and he wants to get Bellingham and Foden and all these people on the pitch. What could very much happen, right, in the next game? Let's just say, like, I could absolutely see this happening because maybe, we'll play the same team, right? And he will go, do you know what, Bellingham, sometimes just drop in there because we had our best moments when Foden was up with him. And I would not be surprised. I am expecting a Foden goal in the next game. I bet you he scores. What I will be slightly concerned about is we played against a team who had no kind of runners in behind, really. And that will put pressure on the team in a different way. So coming back to Pickford, the boys got to be braver. It's got to be a little bit, you've got Bellingham, Rice, Trent, Foden, Saka, Stones. A lot of players who are very, very tidy on the ball. We've got to build up through the thirds. Because Kane kept dropping back deep, and Kane's not going to run those channels. We have to play through. But it's all good, guys. Life is great. England have won a football match, and for some reason we're all a bit angry. Don't be angry, guys. Don't be angry. Love life. Enjoy life. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. And bring on Denmark.